Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Apat. I am Margelo L. Ibanez, and I am going to report to you the last topic of our module, the demonstration teaching, integrating ICT in teaching. So first, let us define what is lesson planning. So what is lesson plan? Lesson plan is a daily plan of the teacher. It sets forth the proposed program or instructional activities for each day. Lesson plan is one of the most important aspects of instructional planning. It considered as the blueprint of what the teacher and students intend to accomplish after a teaching learning episode. Lesson plan is a written outline of instructional objectives, activities, methods, and strategies on how stated objectives will be achieved with the help of appropriate instructional materials to be used. So, lesson plans vary in types. There are 3 types of lesson plans. First is the brief, semi-detailed, and detailed lesson plan. So, here are the suggested formats or parts of the lesson plan. First is the objectives. It may be phrased as statements or questions. So objectives is important in lesson plan because it should be used to guide students as they work through the course and to assess their learning progress. Excellent learning objectives provide a guide for students when reviewing materials and preparing for assessments. Learning objectives are the most powerful if they are actionable and measurable. So second is the subject matter. In subject matter, it includes the topic or concepts, values integrated, reference or text and websites, and materials. In materials is it combination of written materials, audio visuals, computer materials, models, charts, and etc. Materials is very important in demonstration teaching because it is how the teacher will integrate the ICT in his or her teaching. The next part of the lesson plan is the learning activities. In learning activities, it includes A. Preparatory activities, which includes drill, review, introduction of new lesson, and motivation. In drill, it means used in fixing certain items of knowledge or relations to recall. In review, it used in presenting a new view of old facts and concepts in a broader setting that results in a new meaning, associations, relationships, and ways of acting. In introduction of new lesson, the teacher will introduce the new lesson that she or he will discuss that day. Motivation also is one of the important part of the lesson plan. This will be the preparatory activities of the teacher to gain or to have the attention of the students in learning. So next is the letter B, which is the developmental activities, and it includes presentation of the task, virtual exploration, process of learning, and generalization. In developmental activities, it is used in presenting new fact, principle, procedure, generalization, skill, or a new knowledge. The next part of the lesson plan is the application. In application, it also called as culminating activities or enrichment activity. It is important because the teacher will test whether the pupils or the students have already learned the lesson or not. And the last part of the lesson plan is the evaluation. It ensures understanding of the lesson and to determine whether the objectives of the lesson have been achieved. Now, we will discuss the steps in planning for integration of ICT in teaching and learning. So first step, it you need to determine the ICT teaching objectives for planning period. It may be a year, term, or a half term. Second, you need to clarify key topics for each subject for the planning period. Next, you need to identify opportunities for ICT within each subject. And last, you need to select and adopt the ICT projects which are most appropriate for achieving the ICT objectives with the subject context. Now, I will present to you a sample of a detailed lesson plan. So, here is the detailed lesson plan in Teaching Science and Health 6, featuring the center-based learning approach. So, first part is the learning objectives. The teacher presents his or her objectives. The second, the subject matter, which is the volcanic eruptions, curriculum software, module in Science Grade 6, references, the Amazing World of Science, pages 206 to 208, Science Quest Teacher's Guide, page 208, and Philippine Elementary Learning Competency or the PELC, page 17. Next, so the materials that the teacher will use in his lesson is the computer or LCD projector, art materials, 5 small plastic drink bottles, tape, modeling clay, brown cartolina, vinegar, and etc. Next part is the values or the cooperation, following directions correctly, proper use of materials. So the first concepts the teacher presented. The next is the number 2 of the concept. Then here are the third part of the lesson plan, the learning procedures or learning activities. So first, or letter A, is the preparatory activity in which the teacher presents his or her new lesson. First, he or she conduct a motivation. The next, the presentation of the lesson. The next is the giving of instructions to different centers. So this is the technique or the procedure of the teacher to conduct his or her motivation. First, the computer center. Next, the art activity center, journal writing center, reading center, and manipulative center. In developmental activities, first is the computer center, in which the students will open the module for Science Grade 6 and click the module. In this part, the teacher integrate the ICT. They didn't have to use a textbook but only a computer. So click the icon there. The next is the art or the activity center, in which the students will get a clay toys and art materials, then a form of volcano that erupts, then arrange your work on top of the illustration board and decorate and display. Next, the journal center or the writing center. Next, the reading center, the read the book, The Amazing World of Science, and the manipulative center. Next part is the concluding activities, in which the teacher create a questions to his or her students to identify or to check if her students have learned their lesson or their experiment. Then last is the valuing, then application to real life situation, then the evaluation and the assignment. So that was the detailed lesson plan of the teacher. And now we will discuss the influence of ICT in student learning. So ICT helps to provide interactive learning experiences, stimulates and motivates students to learn, provides comfortable learning, aids in the understanding of difficult concepts and processes. It caters to different learning styles, And ICT helps students to gain valuable computer skills. And last, it aids in collaboration and group work. The successful integration of ICT into the learning environment will depend on the ability of teachers in structuring learning in new ways, to merge technology appropriately with a pedagogy, develop socially active classrooms, and encourage cooperate, interaction, and collaborative learning and group work. For many, this requires a different set of skills from those they currently possess. Now, we will discuss the ICT as an important tools. So ICT is important because it helps to meet such increased needs of the students and the teachers. It helps to provide access to more and better educational content, aid in routine administrative tasks. It provides models and simulations of effective teaching practices. It enables learner support networks both face-to-face and distance learning. In demonstration, it is important to integrate ICT in teaching because when teachers are digitally literate and trained to use ICT, these approaches can lead to higher order thinking skills. It provides creative and individualized options for students to express their understandings and leave students better prepared to deal with ongoing technological change in society and the workplace. In some contexts, ICT has also become integral to the teaching-learning interaction through such approaches as replacing chalkboards with interactive digital whiteboards, using students' own smartphones or other devices for learning during class time, and the flipped classroom model where students watch lectures. Integrating ICT in teaching learning process is very important because it helps the teacher and the students to communicate each other via emails, use the web in researching and locating resources, create online groups and build wikis, participate in online collaborative activities, and apply technology-enhanced or web-based lessons in the classroom. Integrating ICT in the classroom will lessen the works of the teachers or the burden of the works of the teacher. Example, in posting homeworks, they can post homeworks or assignments online via learning platforms like Blackboard, Brightspace, and Moodle or Edmodo, Google Classroom, and etc. It is one way of the many teachers can begin to integrate technology in the classroom. Assignments are easily accessible, which can increase student engagement and help students become more organized. Now, I will present to you a guide for observing general demonstration teaching. So, teacher demonstrations are important because they provide students with experiences of real events, phenomena, and processes, helping them learn, raise students' interest and motivation, enable you to focus students on a particular phenomenon or event such as the starch test or food. So, why is it important to have a guide for observing general demonstration teaching? So, classroom observations, which make up the majority of the teachers' summative rating in most states and districts, give teachers the opportunity to receive meaningful and direct feedback about their practice. They can also inform the development of resources to help teachers address areas for improvement. Here's the guide for observing demonstration teaching. So first, you need to indicate your name or the demonstrator's name, the subject, the date, and the school. Then here is the rating or the legend. E for excellent, which graded as 95 to 100%. Then next is the VS or the very satisfactory, 89 to 94%. Next is the S, or the satisfactory. It graded 83 to 88. The next is F, or fair, 78 to 82%. The next is U, the unsatisfactory, 71 to 77%. Here are the guide for observing demonstration teaching. We have the items to rate and the rating, which is the E, VS, S, F, and U. So the first item to rate is the lesson planning. It includes A, were the objectives stated in behavioral terms? B, was there congruency between objectives and subject matter? Objectives and teaching procedure, objectives and formative test, and then objectives and assignment. Next item is the teaching methods. A, it includes, was the method used suited to the needs and capability of the pupils? Then B, was the teacher creative enough to adopt his methods to the students' capability? Then letter C, was there more pupil activity rather than teacher activity? Then letter D, did the teacher make use of the visual aids and examples to illustrate her lesson? Then letter E, did the teacher make effective use of the formative test after teaching? That was. And the next is the class management. It includes, did the teacher have a systematic way of checking attendance, assignment or homework, practice exercise, or group work projects? Then pressing in or out of the room, correcting, distributing, and collecting papers. Then letter B, was order and discipline present in the room? Letter C, were illustrations or visual aids within easy reach of the teacher during teaching? Then the fourth one is the communication skills. Then the fifth one is the teacher's personality when she or he was teaching. Then last part is the comments or the suggestions of the demonstrator or the observer. A guide for observing demonstration teaching can be also done in a laptop or a computer. It doesn't necessary paper or what. The teacher can also integrate ICT for this. So that was all for today. Thank you for listening and God bless.